Hi everyone, I'm Cheryl and welcome to the Sewing Room channel. I'm going to demonstrate how to make a tab top window valance. This window valance will have tabs at the top which are placed on the curtain rod. I will go over how to measure your window and how to calculate the amount of fabric needed for a valance only. And I'll give you a suggested sewing method. Okay, let's get started. So to get your rod up properly so that the valance hangs correctly, you want to bring that curtain rod up 3 inches. And then you want to go out 3 inches from the side. So you go out 3, up 3, and put your bracket. And go over to the other side of the window and do the same thing. When you're measuring your window so you know how much fabric to get, you want to measure from the bracket all the way out to the other bracket. So now that you know how wide your window is, now I'm going to show you how to calculate the amount of fabric. So all of the numbers I'm using reflects my window size. You would just plug in your own numbers. So the width of my window from bracket to bracket is 71 inches. So now I'm going to take that number, 71 inches, your width, and multiply it times 2. That comes out with 142 inches long piece of fabric. So now, if you want to calculate that into yards, you can still go in a fabric store and just say, I want 142 inches, and they can do that. But if you want to go in and calculate by yards, you're going to take that 142 inches, your doubled window width, and divide it by 36 inches. There's 36 inches in a yard, and that comes out to 3.9. Well, I'm going to go ahead and just round up to 4, and that's how much I'm going to ask for. One more thing, in this demonstration, I'm using 100% cotton quilting fabric. The average size or the width of cotton quilting fabric is 42 inches. If you are using the cotton quilting fabric, I recommend you wash it because periodically you might take the valance down to wash it, so you want to get any shrinkage out of it right away. And you also want to get out any extra fabric dyes on it. So what I like to do is, on your fabric, when you buy your fabric, it's folded in half with the selvage edges together. Selvage edges are the finished edge. And then when you unfold the fabric, it has a raw edge on each side. Before you throw it in the washing machine and in your dryer, you need to do a zigzag stitch or some type of sewing machine overcast stitch. Or if you have a serger, you want to bind the 2 raw edges at each end. So after you've finished washing and drying, you want to make sure you give it a good pressing to get any wrinkles out of it. Then you want to go and cut one of the selvage edges off. That's that finished edge. You want to cut it from raw edge all the way down to the other raw edge. So I'm going to cut my fabric width here 20 inches wide. So I'm going to go up 20 inches from this edge here and cut straight across. Now if you have a quilting ruler and rotary cutter, it's going to be a lot faster for you. You might want to take your ruler and go ahead and from this raw edge up to here, use a fabric marker or chalk, tailor's chalk, and draw your line across there. And then either use a rotary cutter or scissors and cut across that line. Then you want to cut the fabric for the tabs. So you're going to go over 4.5 inches and cut straight across to the other end. Then you're going to need one more piece of fabric for the facing. That goes on the back side of the valance at the top edge. So that's, again, is also 4.5 inches, and then cut all the way across. Now I'm going to show you how to cut your tabs, and I want to stress this. There's no magic formula for how many tabs you will need. It depends on the size of your window. So that long 4.5 inch wide strip you cut, you want to take and fold it in half, bringing the raw edges together. So take a ruler and a rotary cutter, or if you don't have a rotary cutter, take a chalk or a fabric marker. And from the raw edge over here, go in 6.5 inches right there and do a cut. Go over 6.5 inches again and do a cut. And keep doing that until your strip is cut into 6.5 inch by 4.5 inch pieces. So as I've said, your number of tabs will probably be different than mine, but for my window, I used 18 tabs. When you cut your fabric out, I'm going to have you do some pressing on the two side edges, and that's to get it prepared to be sewn in later. But you're going to fold the edges over 1/4 inch and press. Don't finger press. You need to press it with an iron, and then fold it over again and press with your iron. And again, you're doing it on the two opposite side edges. Once you've cut all of your tabs, then you want to take your fabric. This is my 6.5 inch long edge. You want to fold it in half. Place a few pins to hold, and then stitch a 1/4 inch wide seam all the way down. Then take it and begin turning it front side out. So after you've turned it front side out, you're going to take the seam, here's my seam, and move it into the middle, and then press it flat. And this seam side will actually be on the underside once you fold these in half. So you want to have your curtain fabric front side up, and we're going to begin pinning the tabs on. So you're going to fold them in half. And remember, that seam is hidden on the inside. Now remember how you had to fold and press this edge over 2 times? Well, now just unfold it once. So it's still folded under that 1/4 inch. So it's down. Then you have the other fold line right here. Place this first tab about 1/8 inch away from that little fold right there. It's right here. And place 2 pins, one on each side. Then you're going to go down to the other end and do the same thing. Now, if you buy a pattern to make tab top draperies or curtains, they go through all of this fancy measuring, and it just gets confusing after a while. So I have a really easy method for evenly spacing these tabs out. So you've got 2 on, 1 at each end. Now bring them and lay them right on top of each other. Line them up. Now you have this fold line out here. So take a pin and stick it right into that fold. Now unfold. So here is that pin marking the center. Take another tab, fold it in half, and place the center of the tab right over the pin. And pin it down. Now I have a couple of more blank spaces. So how I'm going to do that is I'm going to take the center one and put it on top of that one on the end. So here I have that fold. Go ahead and place a pin in it. And then take your next tab, place it over place that center of the tab over the pin, and then place pins to hold it down. Now, wherever you have a large blank space, take the 2 tabs that are on the outer edge of the blank space and do what I just did. So for instance, I've got another blank space over here. I'm just going to fold this over, put a pin in there, and then place the tab over it. And then if you want, you can take a ruler and just kind of quickly check the spacing. If something looks a little odd to you, I would measure it. The tabs on my valance were placed around 3 1/4 inches apart. And again, I used 18. Now the distance between your tabs might be different than mine. Now I'm going to do a line of stitching to just hold them in place before I do the next step. So I'm going to stitch about 1/8 of an inch from the top raw edge here. You're going to start on this tab and stitch all the way across until you get over here to the end of this tab. Take your facing strip and lay it over the top edge of your valance where the tabs are, and make sure it's cut exactly the same length. On the bottom edge of it, you're going to either serge the edge like I did, that binds the raw edges so it doesn't unravel, or, I'm going to turn this over, you can take your raw edge and fold it over once and press, and then fold it over again and press, and then stitch close to that folded edge. So you have this fabric out here on the edge. Now I've unfolded it, and now I'm going to just fold it under once, that 1/4 of an inch. I'm going to take my facing strip and place it right on the edge of the folded edge of the curtain fabric. And then I'm going to pin it all the way across, and you're going to do the same thing at the other end by just having that 1/4 inch folded under. So you want to place pins on all the edges, or the 2 side edges and the top edge. You want to place pins to hold it down. Now here's where you're going to start stitching. You're going to start stitching from the bottom edge of your facing. You're going to come in 1/4 of an inch. So back stitch, stitch up towards this corner. Stop when you get 1/2 inch away and leave your needle down through your fabric. Then turn your fabric and do a 1/4 inch wide seam going all the way across the top edge. And as you're approaching the other end, when you get down here, you stop 1/4 inch away from this edge, leave your needle down, turn your fabric, and continue stitching down. When you get to the bottom edge of the facing, back stitch. At your 2 top corners, you need to trim some of the fabric off to get rid of some of the bulk so that the corners will lay nicer. So I just go across at an angle this way. I also like to do just a little bit more off on each side. And again, you do it at both top corners. Now take your facing and turn it over to the back side and just pull on the tabs to get them out. Now you can always take something pointed to help get the corners to push out, and just reach inside and just push. Now don't push too hard to where you poke through your fabric. Now you'll notice that this facing is turned now to the back, and this is what it looks like from the side. And this folded edge is still folded the way it should be. So if you placed your facing in the correct place, this is how it's going to come out at this point. So now you're either going to pin, or if you prefer using clips, pin or clip this down. Now you're going to stitch close to this outer edge, this inside folded edge, and come up close to the top edge here. and about 1/8 of an inch away from this seam, you're going to stitch all the way across the top and then down the other side. Now I'm going to go over some suggestions for the type of hem to do. If you're making a little valance and you really don't want a lot of fancy effort put into it, you could just fold the edge over 1/4 of an inch and press. Now if you have a serger, you could serge the edge. Then you could fold it over again and press 1/4 of an inch and then stitch it down. But if you want a little bit more substantial look to it, you could do maybe a 1-inch wide hem. So you'd fold it over once and press. Then however wide you want your hem. Maybe it's a narrow hem like 1 inch, or maybe you want 4 inches. So that's why it's always important when you're doing all your measuring, you add extra fabric into that so that you have plenty to do the proper hem that you want. When you put your valance on your curtain rod, ideally you want to have a little bit of a fold in between each tab, and the fabric that's in the fold area between the 2 tabs will be mostly towards the back. So when you're evenly spacing your tabs out on your rod, look for making sure that those sections in between the tabs are pushed going towards the back. Earlier in the tutorial, I mentioned that you could do a blind hem stitch to hem the bottom of your valance. If you don't know how to do it and you're interested in learning, I will have a tutorial link listed below your YouTube screen in the description section. So scroll down below until you see the words "Show More." Click on that. Then that section will expand open and you will see the link to that tutorial. I'll also have links to my other sewing tips and other beginners sewing projects. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram and make sure you check out my Facebook page. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time, and happy sewing. If you like the Sewing Room channel, one of the best ways to show your support is to subscribe by clicking on that red subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. And don't forget to click on share to share this video with your friends. And make sure you click on the bell so you receive notifications for all my new videos. I'm Cheryl, this is Manny, and this is Scotty. See you next time.